More often than not, rookies selected on draft night are looked at as some of the long-term assets in the hopes of improving an organization over time. Sometimes, however, they make an immediate impact and instantly make their team better. With that being said, let's take a look at 10 NBA draft picks who made their team better right away. 10. Oscar Robertson, Cincinnati Royals, 1960. Oscar Robertson was taken by the Cincinnati Royals in 1960 and went on to become one of the most unique players the league has ever seen. After a solid rookie season, Robertson became the first player in NBA history to average a triple-double the following campaign, and instantly transformed into one of the most dominant players in the league. The Big O ended up leading a largely struggling franchise to 6 consecutive playoff appearances before they became the Sacramento Kings. 9. Patrick Ewing, New York Knicks, 1985. There is still mystery surrounding the 1985 draft, in which the number 1 pick ended up landing in New York for a struggling Knicks, but be that as it may, they selected legendary big man Patrick Ewing with it. Ewing was the first player selected in the reformed NBA draft lottery process, and he brought hope to the Big Apple instantly. He was dominant on both sides of the ball, and gave the franchise its true first star since Bernard King. Over a scintillating 17-year career, Ewing led the Knicks to 2 NBA Finals appearances. 8. Kareem AbdulJabbar, Milwaukee Bucks, 1969. Kareem AbdulJabbar, or Alcindor as he was known back then, was acquired by the Milwaukee Bucks in 1969. Jabbar, to this day, remains the most decorated and successful college player of all time, and his talent translated to the NBA seamlessly for the Bucks. Best known for his days wearing a Los Angeles Lakers uniform alongside Magic Johnson and company, Jabbar was just as good during his early days as a pro in Milwaukee. In 1971, Jabbar and Oscar Robertson lifted the Bucks to their only championship in franchise history. 7. David Robinson, San Antonio Spurs, 1989. The San Antonio Spurs desperately needed a cornerstone when they drafted David Robinson in 1989, and he delivered immediately. Robinson had one of the best rookie seasons in league history and set the foundation for the Spurs' dominance over the next 2 decades. His biggest contribution may have been the season-ending injury he suffered in 1997, which led to another number 1 draft pick in Tim Duncan. Robinson won his first championship in 1999 and a second ring in his last season in 2003. Before we continue with our list, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. 6. Elgin Baylor, Minneapolis Lakers, 1958. Elgin Baylor was acquired by the Minneapolis Lakers in 1958. The franchise became the Los Angeles Lakers down the track, but Baylor was one of the first all-world players for the organization. To this day, he is still one of the most underrated players in NBA history, and led the Lakers to 8 consecutive finals appearances in the 1960s. If it wasn't for Baylor's early dominance, the Lakers franchise might not be what it is today. 5. James Worthy, Los Angeles Lakers, 1982. In 1982, the Los Angeles Lakers selected James Worthy with the number 1 overall pick, their second number 1 pick in 4 seasons. Worthy was instantly vital as he became a key contributor on a star-studded team that went on to win 3 more titles upon his arrival. Worthy still doesn't get the recognition he deserves due to the star power he played with, but the truth is he was a star in his own right as well. Big Game James was named Finals MVP during the 1988 championship run, and is one of just a few Lakers' greats to have their jersey retired. 4. Hakeem Olajuwon, Houston Rockets, 1984. At a time when it was rare for an international player to be a number 1 pick, the Houston Rockets got it right when they selected Hakeem Olajuwon in 1984. Olajuwon's selection is interesting when looking back at the history of the game, as he was taken before the likes of NBA icon Michael Jordan and several other all-time legends. The Rockets can't be mad at their decision though, as Olajuwon led them to back-to-back championships and finals MVPs in the mid-90s, and is still considered by most to be the greatest international player of all time. 3. Tim Duncan, San Antonio Spurs, 1997. As we established earlier, the Spurs took Tim Duncan in 1997 after a season-ending injury to front court star David Robinson put them in the lottery. The franchise hit the jackpot as Duncan had a phenomenal rookie season, and in his sophomore year, he led the organization to a championship. The big fundamental went on to win 4 more championships. He never missed the playoffs in his entire career, and retired as probably the greatest power forward ever. 2. Magic Johnson, Los Angeles Lakers, 1979. Magic Johnson had the most unique rookie season we have ever seen for a superstar. Astonishingly, Magic led the Lakers to an NBA championship and won Finals MVP in his very first year. He made headlines for starting at center during the NBA Finals and remained a pioneer for positionless basketball as a 6'9" point guard. Magic ended up leading the Lakers to 4 more titles in 9 more Finals appearances, and retired as arguably the greatest player in the storied franchise's history. 1. LeBron James, Cleveland Cavaliers, 2003. The greatest rookie we have ever seen is LeBron James, who was the undeniable first pick in 2003. James was the most highly anticipated prospect of all time, after being on the cover of Sports Illustrated at just 16 years old. The Cavaliers found their savior when James was drafted, as his impact instantly gave them 19 more wins in his first campaign. Just a year later, and the franchise was back in the playoffs. James is still the greatest player in the world, and it's hard to comprehend that he's still dominating the league after being so good early on in his career. Most NBA draft picks are long-term projects who will either sink or swim depending on how they develop. There is a rare breed of players, however, that instantly set the league on fire from the very first moment when they take to the NBA hardwood. Which player do you think made the greatest instant impact? Let us know in the comments.